Hi, you're just in time. We're calling the meeting to order. Do we have agenda approval
I'll make a motion to approve.
A second?
and then time for discussion? I understood a couple of things were going to be added to this agenda. Did you just say that yesterday? Okay. One of them was supposed to be, gosh, I didn't write it down. But do you remember we talked about it yesterday in our little,
ABC. So one of those.
well, it was number 7, but I just got an explanation. Well, okay, so how about number 7 be pulled? And then, I thought there was something
You
else.
could pull that during the actual meeting.
Oh,
You don't
okay.
have to rearrange the agenda right
Oh, okay, so then we could approve what's on it, but we were gonna add one more thing to it.
now. We should probably add that in
Sound-
closed session,
Yeah, in closed session,
and you can come out and add it
at the end. Oh, okay, then, sorry.
as an oral report at the end. I can go over
You'll
those
fix it.
steps.
Oh, okay, thank
For
you.
you.
Okay, then, since we have a first and second, all those in favor go aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstained, and it passed. So now, we're gonna go ahead and recess to closed session, right? See, I'm gonna give a finger to my second. You believe that? And that's inappropriate. Nonetheless,
Push your button.
I don't know. We called our meeting to order.
You're good, you're good.
Superintendent Vivi, do you feel like reporting in?
Out of closed session, much information was given and discussed. Item A is no longer valid because we had to travel a different path. And then I did give the board copies of templates and forms for my evaluation. And I look forward to all that feedback to always become better at my craft.
Okay.
Serve my staff.
So in order to make sure this form is set up and will be responded to appropriately, I need it attached to the agenda, right?
Not out of closed session, you don't.
Oh, okay.
You would attach it, we would attach it during the May meeting.
Oh, okay. All right then, it looks like we need a flag salute, please.
Please rise and join us in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, Sanhedrin, students of the month. Should I skip something? We already reported that, sorry. Logan,
I can roll.
heavy roll.
No, I can,
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay,
flexible.
I missed the hands.
Nice. Do I do it from here to? It's my first student of the month.
I wasn't sure when I stood up there, I thought, my kid, I was there.
All right, so Aurora Chavez, principal from Sanhedrin High School, alternative. We run 3 different programs. We run Sanhedrin Alternative High School. We have the Independent Study program for 9th through 12th, and we have the Independent Study for K through 8. So, oh, thank you. Didn't have to pay attention. All right, so we have, our kiddos are not able to attend today, but for our K-8, Brett Bowman, very shy, would not come, but can write. He's in the independent study program, and he writes at the college levels. He is such a beautiful writer. I wish he would let me read some of it to you guys, but I said no. For our Sanhedrin program, we have Lynette Duran Juarez. Lynette is an English learner, on an IP. She has so many obstacles that she has confronted in her life and is excelling. She's not only on track to graduate, she is also holding a job and doing sports and being a role model to her peers and to her siblings as well. And she's out of town, so was not able to attend. And for our 9-10 Independent Study program, we have Casper Jordan. And Ms. Reese wanted to recognize him for, Ms. Reese, if those of you that know her, is extremely organized, spreadsheets galore, she has all kinds of things. For her to state that a student is exceptionally organized and on track, that means a lot because she is one that takes that type of a focus very seriously. Just so that you guys are aware as well, we are up to our 11th student as of this last trimester, the end of trimester 2. We have 11 students that have met all the graduation requirements and are now graduating. So we're looking forward to having more because it's, as a district, part of our graduation requirements are as a cohort, so as soon as they start at 9th grade, we're responsible to ensure the graduation of all of our 9th graders. So that tracks at being part of Sanhedrin, that really helps out our graduation rates. And we want to make sure that all of our kids reach their full potential, whatever it is that they want to do and become. We have 2 kiddos that have graduated. We have Aaron Adams and Chad Douglas, and they are off, they exploring their new careers, and both are doing exceptionally well, and we're very proud of them. And that's what I have to share about Sanhedrin so far. Yes?
So doesn't the adult school come under the umbrella of Sanhedrin?
The adult school is located at Sanhedrin.
Okay.
It falls under a different program.
Okay.
It doesn't fall under, so I didn't mention our adult school because that isn't part of our K-12 system. It's located there, but it's a whole other entity.
So maybe you could give us a presentation on the adult school sometime. I'd like to hear it.
Okay, I could definitely do that.
Okay.
No worries, yeah.
Aurora,
Yes?
do we do any follow-up to find out how our graduates from Sanhedrin do a year, 2 years later?
Given that, let's see, we're in April and I haven't been there since in the past, I don't know what has been done in that regards in the past. We do have quite a few kiddos, or I shouldn't say kiddos because they're adults, but adults that have been through Sanhedrin that come back and check in. I can definitely explore that, but I don't have that information currently at hand.
That'd be valuable information at some point in the future.
So just to let you know, part of our adult school program is to provide them academic counseling, letting them know and trying to tie them into the community college and helping them explore the different pathways and courses that they can take. Actually, John Horton just went to a training because he's the adult school teacher. We sent him to a training because he's the one that actually provides that information to our adult school students. So that is being advertised, suggested, kind of pushing them in that direction to hopefully so that they can explore whatever it is that they want to do. So that is a component of the adult school. All right, any other questions?
Presentation.
I could do that from here.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Oh, I could do that from here, that's fine. Probably a little easier. You want to put, thank you. Hey, that's what I have on my computer. All right, so this is an update of what we've been doing, just to keep everybody up to speed. So I know that on the emails, those weekly updates that I send out, you guys are aware that we've been working on LPAC this week. Bechtel Grove will be completely done. All the other schools are pretty much done with LPAC. But as some administrators found out, it doesn't really end because we have kids that come in and out of our system. Bechtel Grove got some new students, so as soon as they get to us, if they haven't taken the LPAC, the summative LPAC at their previous site, we are responsible for administering it. So it doesn't completely go away. We did the mass of the big bunch of the testing, but as people come in and out of our district, we'll probably, if they haven't taken it, TOMS, the system that we use, the platform that we use from the state, will indicate whether or not they have taken it at their previous site. And I'll be checking that through Elevation. It pops them up right on my screen on a regular basis, whether they need their initial testing or their summative testing, it'll pop it up. I've had people throughout the year, one teacher just at Blosser last week asked me, well, this so-and-so hasn't had their LPAC, their summative scores, and we're trying to test for an IEP. That's what they were testing for. It's good information to try to determine whether it's a language issue or if it's a processing issue. But we did, quite honestly, not all of our kids were tested in the last few years. And we're working pretty hard on fixing that.
How soon do you expect data from that?
So your initial LPAC scores, you get them within a few days. Your summative, we started pretty early for the most part, so we may be able to get it by May. It just depends. There isn't a concrete date, it's just a couple of months, a few months that we usually get them before, we should get them before the school year's out and be able to reclassify kids depending on their updated scores. All of the kids that have a 4 or more, along with the appropriate state and or local assessments in language arts, in English language arts, are eligible to be reclassified, and we've taken care of all of those kiddos. So, but we'll be able to revisit that probably in May, hopefully. I keep checking, so we'll see.
And how long did you say the monitoring goes on after that? Is that a 4-year deal? Okay, that was curious.
4 years. Okay, so, oops, I didn't say anything on the previous. So tomorrow, in this same room, same place, same time, we'll be going over our root cause analysis. We have people that are representing all the different subgroups that the differentiated assistance highlighted. And it says 4 areas, but it's really 3. The areas that we're looking at is academics, we're looking at suspensions, and engagement. Engagement constitutes attendance and graduation rates. And the graduation rates is the part that was really challenging for some people to conceptualize, because those graduation rates count as soon as they start with us in the fall of their 9th grade year. It's not the senior class that graduates. It's from 9th grade on, we're responsible.
So those are the only root causes we look at, or those other things?
Those are the ones that the state, for all of the different subgroups that I had mentioned before. Let's see.
But there's other root causes like adverse childhood experiences.
Those are the ones that the state, right now what we're doing is we're going through the process for the differentiated assistance. And we have to, remember the presentation that I had given you guys before, so we're going through the root cause analysis, and then after the root cause analysis, then we're gonna work together with our guided coalition and work on interventions, strategies, trainings that we need, and then write up a report that will be due, I think about May, June. And that's what we'll be working on. FPN, the Title I, everything that fell under Title I, checked off, it's done. We're up to date and we're in compliance. English learners, we're in compliance. PE, not so much. We're getting closer. We're getting closer with the PE part, but
It's not as, Aurora's laughing a little bit, but it's actually more complex than meets the eye. Because of PE minutes and the way the state structures PE minutes and how they identify PE minutes. So it would seem to be an easy solution. We tried to find a bunch of them, but we just haven't landed on the right one.
and as soon as I submit things that they've asked, then it's a new batch of things that they're asking. And it's been this cycle over and over and over. So we're jumping through a lot of hoops and trying to make it all work without disrupting the entire high school system.
One of our, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
One of our unique and assets and strengths at the high school level is the trimester system. It affords the opportunity for students to take a variety of classes, specifically CTE classes. It doesn't work well PE in relationship to the state's requirements.
Required minutes within a 10-day cycle.
Most high schools are under either a 4x4 block or a semester block, which is typically a typical August to December 15th, and then January 1st to the end of June or end of May. The trimesters are 3 separate dynamics. So we're just going to have to continually bang on the door and create it and figure it out.
And we've presented several different proposals, and at the time when we have those conversations, they're okay with it. Then we submit them, do all the legwork, submit it, and then we get, no, but you need it, this isn't gonna work after all. I want you to unsubmit it and take it off of the CMT website and redo, blah, blah, blah. So it's through these.
We're going to win. Bottom line,
Yeah.
we're going to win.
So just giving you an update on where we're at with
Before
this.
you leave
Yes.
PE, does it cause us any issues at all that we don't have a female PE teacher?
No.
And do you know why that is?
Why would it cause us?
It has, in some places, I'm sure it probably wasn't their only issue since it caused some high schools.
That's
an
never
issue.
been brought up by the FPM when they went over our entire PE system from kindergarten, actually it's not even required in kindergarten, but from first grade through 12th, that was never a concern of theirs at all.
Is that because we used to have someone and now we don't, as late as just a few
They've
months
never
back?
mentioned that that was a requirement
Is
in
that
any
an
way.
issue?
Well, I didn't
Okay.
catch that question.
About not having a female PE teacher or someone to be with the girls when it's locker room time or
Oh.
whatever. We used to have a person who wasn't a teacher, but
You mean
certainly,
locker room supervision, not an actual
Exactly.
PE teacher.
well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't mean that they, I don't ask for credentials.
That's a separate issue than a female PE teacher. That's a supervision question then.
Right, but it also deals with only being specifically problematic for PE. And it
Okay.
isn't?
Doesn't Title IX deal with that?
Or,
These are not issues that have arisen during our FBM model.
no, they've gone through all kinds of things.
Sure, it is.
Nitpicked a lot of different things.
Yeah, we've been dealing with PE pretty significantly since day one with them.
So I'm mildly confused because you're telling me you guys propose a solution. They tell you, this is fine, submit the paperwork, and then they tell you, no, on second thought, no, we don't like what you're doing.
Welcome to my life.
At what point do you push back?
I've involved her the person supervisor already.
I would hope so. I
Yeah.
mean, my point here is,
And then
they're,
the
sounds like
first
they're
supervisor
wasting
now
our
on the
time.
second one.
Yeah, it sounds like they're wasting our time. And at
Yes.
some point, there's got to be a way to get resolution.
Yeah, I'm on the second supervisor that I've engaged with so far.
I directed Laura at a certain point in the fall, so we're done. Go to this person, go to this person. So,
Yep.
I'm assuming that there's got to be some way even beyond that when you get legal involved.
we're not quite there yet, but we're still hoping for an altruistic and normal pathway component, yes.
So other school districts in the state that are on a trimester schedule, are they running the same problem?
Pretty much. There's not as many schools on trimesters as you might think at the high school level.
Okay, but there are some.
There's some. And we've explored their models and they have somewhat similar issues.
Okay.
Not as small as us.
Okay.
That is one of the variables. Much larger schools. So their offerings for classes can be much more.
But the key point is we're trying to reach a certain number of instructional minutes of PE
In a window,
in a 10-day period.
yes. We'll get there.
All right, ELAC and DLAC. So these are the different workshops that the parents requested, and the next one that's coming up is the financial aid scholarships information that our parents were requesting. And that'll be facilitated by, I've already have the presentation already set and done. Just one of the things that we were just talking about earlier was trying to see if we can partner up with different organizations such as Nuestra Alianza to see if they can help us get more families to participate because, that is one of the things, that our participation rate is not where it should be, but this is the first year that we're trying to reach out there and engage with the parents, so I can understand some of the, why some people are still hesitant, but we're gonna continue reaching out and trying. There was a communication issue with our system that we weren't aware of, but we fixed it. Yes?
Yeah, I got my messages, thank you.
You're welcome. We were not aware that that was an issue until somebody helped me out and we realized what was going on, right?
At what point do we try to engage those families?
I'm sorry?
At what point do we try to engage those families?
We've been trying to
At what
engage.
point do we start?
Do we start?
Yeah, what point do we,
Middle school, elementary?
Oh, when did we start?
yeah, when should we start to try and engage those families for this particular topic?
So these topics were, the way it works is you invite all of KTK-12 parents for ELAC and ELAC. Any parents, they don't have to be English learners to participate. Any parents, group of parents can show up. So we've been trying to reach all of our parents in regards to this. Then we are required to do a needs assessment, and this was one of the needs that they requested. This was one of the workshops type of information. These are some of the workshops that they requested to have. So I am doing, putting on information and workshops based on what the parents told me that they wanted. So that's why we're doing these.
Right, and then, for example, the financial aid and scholarships and so forth. You said you're trying to reach out and get more parents involved and more families
Work.
involved.
Yes, we send out the messages, we mail out the invites, we mail out the calendars. We have the parent liaisons calling. And now we're gonna try to see if we can utilize, collaborate with Nuestra Alianza to see if they can help us get more participation as well.
And regarding the financial aid and scholarships, that would be for kids in high school going on to college, or?
This was part of a needs assessment that parents responded to.
Right.
We have parents that are from, I've seen parents at the elementary level request this type of information because they want to know what to plan for. So it's not specific to a grade level. The high school, though, does have something specific to different grade levels, but this is apart from that. This is for our community.
Do you schedule these workshops basically with and hope people are gonna attend, and just put out the notice that there's gonna be a workshop, 7 PM, such and such a date here in this room? Or do you wait until you have a number of people that are interested?
No, we're setting them up and trying to reach out in the various ways that I mentioned. We have them calendared out. We've sent that out to all of the families ahead of time so that they are aware of what's coming up, and so that they have that opportunity to plan and whether or not they want to attend. So we've had those scheduled out. Those should ideally, all of that should be scheduled out at the beginning of the school year or the year.
For people that can't meet those dates, do you guys have alternatives? Are they able to meet with you guys on one-on-one basis, one-on-two? I mean,
So on the letters that I send out, I do put my email and phone number on there. So I've had parents that will call or email and ask questions, and I can get information to them that way. But one of the things that I was talking to Jen about is the title is long, but for the programs that I oversee and that I'm engaged in, I would like to add like a part, and I haven't spoken to Mark about this yet, but I have something in progress right now. It's not completed. I've been working on a website to attach to our district website so I can post and have all of the presentations, all of the information readily accessible online for people as well, so that they could download it if they want it, they can look at it if they want it, if not, then don't look at it, whatever. So yeah, I'm working with them. I have, it's partially done, it's not completely done. It's something that I've been working on this school year.
thank you.
I'm sure you know, but there is also at the Glosser Lane, there are announcements for the 5th graders who can receive scholarships for the college.
Yeah.
And they do really well, including limited English speakers to be involved, and that really hits home to some for the scholarship information, because when you set them up that early, they get a little more focused, and, come high school, they're a little more in tune with the idea. So, I mean, it really is important from we'll get there, TK on, to remind people of what their future goals could be.
So there's another component to this that another thing that I haven't spoken to you about.
Mystery night.
Mystery night. Throw it all out there. But I have a personal learning plan, a 6-year is it a 6-year? Yeah, 6-year personal learning plan. I'll make it into a 7 since our middle school starts at 6. But I have a personal learning plan that I shared with the counselors, and we've been tweaking it. It's in Spanish and in English. It has the graduation requirements. It has the A through G requirements in both languages, in Spanish and in English. Traditionally, I've done this with elementary kids, and then pass it over. It will save some of the workload off of counselors as well, because you plan out their courses from 5th grade all the way through high school based. So you start off with their interest, what their hobbies are, and how and then you go into how you can make your interests, make a living off of your interests and what you like to do. We mail those home to the parents in their home language. That's what I did with Ukiah. I helped out a few of the schools do that. But yeah, and actually I did that with some of the parents that have kids in Ukiah right now that live here, but they're bringing them back, so that's a good thing. But yeah, it sets them up. You set up their courses based on whether they want a CTE path, whether they want a little bit of both, whether they want A through G. You customize it to their needs. I've even had parents call after I mailed it home, call me up and say, hey, wait a minute, I don't agree with what my kids stated here. And then they come in and we've had a group session and worked it all out. So that's part of this as well. They get them planning, find an intrinsic way of motivating the kids to really pay attention to what they're taking in middle school, because they really don't understand that what they're doing in middle school impacts their future. Well, why would they? They're still, so, but But this is a way to get their parents thinking, to have the kids thinking, oh, wait a minute, if I want to be a lawyer or if I want to be an engineer is really popular right now. But if I want to do this, I'm going to need more math classes. If I want more math classes, if I want to take these classes, then I need to get this done in middle school in order to be able to access that. So it's just, those are all bits and pieces that been working with some of the counselors on.
Is there room in that for a kid to change their interests?
Of course, it's not set in stone.
Okay.
It's just to spark that conversation with the family, with the kid, and start planning out. Yeah, you could change those at any time. All right. So MTSS. So Brandon, make sure I said his name. We all met, Brandon, Kelly, myself, Mr. Beebe, we all met this week to go over several components of this. I'm not going to steal Kelly's thunder. She has something that she's putting together. But all sites now have access to Aludo, which is the MTSS training, online training. There is a pacing calendar because there parts of MTSS require teamwork and planning. So part of the pacing will, I can just go on to the pacing calendar. So you'll see there's, this part here tells you how many hours or whatever it takes to finish each component. And then we have just benchmarks to finish by this amount of time so that we can have a team meeting to implement what we learned, and then start learning more things, and then have another team meeting. So just so that we're on the same pace and we're actually able to apply what we're learning. And it's based on school site. It has a tab for each school site, but I put them all in one so that we can be transparent. We can see, oh, Brookside's actually the one that's way ahead of everybody else, and Willits High just got access to it, so it's a wide spectrum. But at least this way, if there's any questions, sites can collaborate a little better. If I had a question on a certain section, I could take a look and look, oh, Bechtel's on that same, Bechtel already did it, so I'm gonna go talk to Bechtel and see how we can better get some ideas of how to implement this, or just so that we're able to collaborate a little bit better. But this ties in perfectly with our differentiated assistance, something that Brandon had mentioned in our meeting this week. He's working really diligently with his class, but a common factor that he found was attendance. And it's really hard to teach somebody if they're not there, right? So part of the things that we're going to be working on with our differentiated assistance and with MTSS is being proactive, screening kids. What I used to do is go through last year's attendance, figure out who my frequent flyers are, the ones that are going to be, that have a history of missing a lot of school, be proactive, meet with those families, trying to get an incentive fund, trying to work with them and see what the issues are, trying to put a plan into place to try to prevent that kid from having that chronic attendance, and then having tiered interventions for attendance, for instance. But that's the same idea for attendance, for academics, for behavior. So these are all components. Go ahead, you were going to say something.
Not yet.
Oh, you,
I was breathing.
oh.
So,
It's important.
Roy, it stands to reason that these kids that have been, their chronic attendance problems, they're probably academically challenged. Would not be a reasonable assumption that most of them are that way?
You would think that most of them, but not all the time. Sometimes it's just a lack of interest, but they catch on really quick. And that goes to another issue. For instance, I ran the reports I ran the data for Blosser, and I included our GATE students in that data analysis because we have some GATE students that are not performing up to where they should. They're having attendance issues, they're having academic issues, but it's not the lack of ability. That's more of a motivation. It's not that they don't know the information. The motivation is not there.
One of those elements, kid misses a certain amount of school, gets far enough behind, now feels basically embarrassed, if you will. or lack of confidence. A lot of things play into this. Now it doesn't really want to come back to school because of being so far behind. It's one of those, the circle just continues around and around, and we keep falling. My question really is, once we identify those kids and that are frequently non-attendant, we work out a plan to get them back in school. How do we work out a plan? What kind of things do we do for that kid to get them back up to where they're no longer feeling self-conscious about all that they've missed?
So, one, giving them opportunities to succeed. So what, to build that motivation?
Yes.
Giving them opportunities to succeed, but also having those tiered interventions. So part of what we're working on as a district is, I think we're strong at kind of here and there in different areas throughout our district, but having a system-wide interventions in regards to tier 2 that are specific to the kiddos' gaps, because everybody's gap could be a little bit different. And that's a conversation that I had with our admin team in our last meeting to start, and that's part of the next presentation, the next couple slides, actually. Let me just go there since we're talking about that.
Before you move on,
Okay.
Alex, I want to tell you, and I'm going to throw some light on Brandon's way and Rory and Kelly's way, and also our site leaders and our staff. The other day when we had this discussion about MTSS, it was really one of the first times since I have been here that we had a legitimate vertical and horizontal articulation discussion, where we're talking about a student from K-12, exactly what you're talking about. How do we identify the ACEs of a student, which is advanced childhood experiences, negative experiences in a child's life, okay? We were beginning to have this discussion based upon the fact that I kind of messed up MTSS when I got here. Didn't really handle it very well, to tell you the truth. Kind of drug Brandon with me down a pathway that wasn't the best, and then we kind of stayed on it together. And we're now fixing it. We're now addressing it. But coming out of that, this discussions, along with disproportionality, along with the work that Kelly's doing, along with the work that Aurora's doing, along with the work that the site leaders are doing, and the staff is beginning to do with tier 1, tier 2 behavior involvement, response to intervention. We just like to use a lot of these words. But we're now beginning to have those deep breadth discussions about where do we want to go? How do we get there? Kindergarten student, all up to 12th grade, how do we get them to stay in school, stay motivated, and graduate? And so that was a really cool conversation yesterday. Sorry for the lack of professional term, but it was a great conversation to have on, for the first time, looking at our pendulum from K-12, but also the breadth of a student. Not just getting them to graduate, but what's causing them not to graduate? What's causing them not to go to school? What's causing them not to be motivated? Now, the umbrella is getting built, so to speak, over our heads. And so, thanks. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, I hope I don't get myself in trouble here. I tend to do that sometimes, but, and things may have changed because the bottom was dropped out of the cannabis industry. But when I was teaching, a lot of times the kids that weren't coming to school were kids that were being raised in a family where they were growing marijuana. And the kids didn't have any motivation to get what they needed in school because they were just going to grow marijuana like their parents did, and that didn't really require an education. That used to be a significant problem in the school district. And I don't know if things are different now than they used to be because cannabis is different.
So that is why we are having our root cause analysis meeting with people that represent, like our white students have a low graduation rate. From the time that they start 9th grade to graduation, it's at 66%.
Right.
So we've invited parents of white students. We've invited family members and representatives for our Native students. We've invited special ed. We've invited EL and Hispanic because there's different, and just having conversations with, so that was, what you mentioned was a common one for some white families.
Can I just hop in? So Jeannie, the root cause analysis that we did for disproportionality, and Paula's seen it because she had to sign off on us, has an entire section that addresses that very concern. And so I would just refer you to that CCEIS document it's very similar to what he's talking about. So it's all written out, and it sheds some light.
I remember when a student I was teaching, I was working with in the high school, and we were working really hard to get her to graduate, and suddenly she disappeared. And her mom needed her to bring marijuana down to the Bay Area, and she just literally disappeared.
So that's why we're having conversations with different subgroups. Our native students are having different concerns where grandparents are raising the kids and the tribe is helping out. So it's just, there's different perspectives, different needs based on all the different groups. So that's why we're bringing people together so that we can plan. We have people that were invited from that have their kids at Sanhedrin as well, because that's another perspective as well. So it just, there's a lot of different layers. There isn't a one size fits all, and we're gonna work on trying to.
This is big, great work that never ends. There's no end to it. It just, once it starts and we start moving in this direction that I strongly feel that we are, and it takes work. It's gonna take work to get all these silos connected and working in a vertical articulated fashion. So,
Well, I find it tragic that, we have a 66% graduation rate of white students. I would argue that anything less than 100% of all of our students graduating high school is tragic. And the reason why I say that is I understand that there are industries, take cannabis for example, that you could theoretically make a career out of that and do just fine without a high school diploma. And there are others, make no mistake of that, and I accept that. However, without a high school diploma, you are taking so many other opportunities for yourself off the table. And so I guess my point is you don't have to go to the dance, but at least if you got the ticket, you have so many more doors that can open for you if you just have that simple little piece of paper called a high school diploma. It opens so many more doors for you.
I was gonna say, but with a lot of kids, it has nothing to do with the marijuana. The kids that I worked with when I worked with Child Protective Services, a lot of them, they were dealing with whether they have enough food to eat. And so depending on what their family situation is, they can't function because the PTSD and all the other stuff that comes with it is too much for them. They're trying to survive. Basically just survive.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs, yes, the basic survival, yes. And I was one of those kids. I was raised in a very abusive setting and was in foster care, homeless. Growing up, it takes a toll on a person. And school is not your priority. So I didn't even graduate from high school. I took the high school proficiency exam at 16 and got my diploma. So, and that was just because I was in detention and my detention teacher told me to do it. So, but when you're in that mode, survival and where your food's gonna come from, that's your priority. Education is not at that point. And we have a high foster care rate in this county, so.
We absolutely do.
We have a very high one. Just so that you're aware, that Tier 2 intervention, that's what the focus of our CAPS network, our POC focus was this last month, that the Guided Coalition, so we have teachers and administrators participating in this and learning different strategies. And one of the homework assignments for them is to start thinking of how they gave us a variety of different strategies and ways to provide those tiered interventions during the school day. It gets a little more challenging for the secondary, but they provided a lot of different examples that the teams are now going back and working on figuring out what works for their individual sites. So that was part of what we're working on. So we're working on what we're doing piece by piece. You don't want to do too much at once because then you're not doing it well. So.
Are you finding a lot of open doors when you go to get firsthand information? Or are you doing this mostly from, come talk to me, student, and tell me what's happening?
Are you,
When you're doing all your setting up, it went faster than I was, for your MTSS programs and things like that. When you go to gather your data, are you finding pretty open doors when you go to seek data from the family or from wherever? Or are you
I
doing this
haven't,
strictly
I think
from?
being part of the community and having demonstrated and proven that even through COVID, I volunteered my time in helping out tons of families with their education, with their child's education. I haven't received any resistance from people. I think that's probably why, because they've gotten to know me in a different capacity already. I think that's helped.
I'm just
It's
kind of
an
wondering how
advantage.
out into the community,
Yeah.
so that answers it.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's better than just getting, for example, for Native Americans, the tribal elders coming to explain because they're so conditioned to the system.
Yeah.
As opposed to the family that sincerely needs your assistance.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering how that's
Yeah, no,
working for you.
I haven't encountered any pushback from any specific families or anything.
Good.
Actually, it's quite the contrary, it's still getting
That's
people
what I was
asking
hoping
for help and, yeah.
Okay.
I
That's
think
a
this
good
is,
thing.
I think this is the last, I think it's the last slide. So universal transitional kindergarten for all the requirements, the transition that we're supposed to be taking is that we facilitate, we don't have to financially provide, but we facilitate kiddos having some kind of educational learning opportunity, enrichment opportunity for 9 hours a day. Brookside is open from 7:30 in the cafeteria for the drop-off kiddos. So from there on, 9 hours. Right now, we are collaborating with daycare providers. We're collaborating with the after-school program. We have a meeting with Boys and Girls Club coming up. So we're trying to collaborate with different agencies. We're setting up transportation for our TK kiddos to go to the child care provider after school. Right now, it's a 3-hour-a-day program. I want to say it's 3 hours. But we're supposed to be transitioning to a wider span of time. We did receive funding for it, under $29,000, but it's a one-time funding to essentially set things up. It's kind of like a little starter kit to get things going. We can't use it to build a bathroom or anything like that. It's for the supplies and that kind of stuff. But just so that you're aware, I do know how to count, but the requirements are 1-to-12 ratio. Our district has the cap of 22 for those classes. So that's why it doesn't add up, okay? But the goal is that by 25-26 school year, kids will be in TK. They'll be starting off in TK at 3 years old, turning 4 by September 1st. Those are going to be littles.
So the 1-to-12, that's basically a teacher and an aide to get you 22.
Yes, that's what we're doing right now, a teacher and an aide, yes. And this one has an asterisk because the legislator threw something out, which is a little confusing for people, saying that it was going to be moved, the ratio was going to be decreased to 1-to-10, and that was with a big if extra funding came around. And we haven't been told about any extra funding yet, so that's what it is right now.
When it was rolled out through early on in CSBA's legislative stuff, they were talking 1-to-10.
Yeah, but it hasn't been granted yet. They threw it out there as a big if. if the funding's there, then they'll reduce it. But we're waiting until they tell us. And that's, oh, yes,
Just before,
okay.
so the teacher that you are talking about is hopefully a credentialed kindergarten, preschool kinder, or is it the preschool that you can get through the junior college?
There's specific credentialing requirements, and our teachers are meeting those requirements, or TK. The other thing as well, one of the challenges that our community partners are having, just so that you guys are aware, funding from the state, the allocations that they get for daycare and for different things like that, only cover from about 12:30 on in the afternoon. We get out at 11:30, so we are not able to make that arrangement. We have an hour gap there in our time, so we need to work on our schedule, because we can't move towards that 9-hour requirement the way we are right now. So we have to make some adjustments in our scheduling to, because right now they get paid from 12:30 on. We could either provide an extension program, we could do a full day. Well, a lot of districts do full day DKs. I did when I was an elementary principal in the early 2000s. But there's a variety of ways to do it. If we can partner up and figure out a way to work with our community partners, then we can make it work. And it's taking a lot of conversations and trying to work with our community. So that's where we're at.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I trust it's you, Melissa. Oh,
We
okay,
have
good.
the GASB 7475. GASB is the governmental accounting standards board, and they require us to get our liability regarding our retiree benefits evaluated a full evaluation every 2 years. And on the in-between year is just a rollover evaluation, nothing as in-depth as this. This is just literally an analysis of our liability, and it is based off of estimates of employees that are currently employed by the district that may stay with the district and eventually become eligible for retiree benefits. They are seeing trends of employees not staying in one place of employment long enough to become eligible, but that hasn't impacted our liability too greatly. At this time, compared to last year's evaluation, our liability has decreased. As the interest rates increase, our liability decreases. If interest rates decrease, our liability increases. So the first few pages are the most important. And you can just see on page 2 at the table in the top, it just shows our annual projected benefit payments, which is our liability.
So you've got them down here at the middle part of 23, page 2 or page 23. Anyway, and it's making all of its benefit payments of $209,000 as money you don't have in the first column. And then in the second column, but then it shows up and that you have enough money. I don't understand why that happens that way.
I think you're on page.
Aren't I on total compensation system? Isn't that what you were on?
Yes. And I'm on page.
Number 2.
Number 2.
Yeah, there's no questions.
Yes, that one.
Oh, okay. Well,
Okay, so it's the offset. So it's just our net change, and you can see the employees, the leaves and losses are the employees leaving the district, and I'm not 100% sure what you're asking me right now.
Okay, well, so if you go to balance at June 30th, 2021 measurement
Yes.
date, that's the news section. And it talks about a service cost, and then the interest on TOLs and the return from FNPs. And it goes employer contributions. Those pay for the benefit payments, right? I mean, that's sort of the way it looks. If that's not the case, can you explain that to me?
I would have to look into that. further. This is my first time seeing a Gatsby report and having to,
I'm sorry, I thought you did.
so, no, we do, I don't create this report, we have total compensation systems who we pay to complete the report
Oh,
because it's an
okay,
audit
that's-
requirement. So it's
My misunderstanding.
completed, it's required for the auditors to be completed by a credentialed analyst. So total compensation systems is our credentialed analyst that provides the information. And it's based off of our employees at our current time.
Okay, well then I'm good, I'll just say, thank you very much. You're all finished. Do you have any other questions or anything like that?
No, I'm good.
All right. CSEA, oh, okay. Sorry. I missed one.
Hello. Hi. For those of you that don't know, I think most of you know me, but for those that don't know me, I'm Tiffany Clayton, and I'm happy to announce I'm the new CSEA Vice President. I look forward to representing.
Once in a while.
Thank you. I look forward to representing and helping our classified staff. We have come really far and worked hard. We're coming up with a new structured salary schedule. After doing research and looking at a lot of the other school districts and their salary schedules, we sat down and came up with a plan with Mr. Bee's approval. We now feel we have a fair and equitable salary schedule. United as we stand, the CSEA, Chapter 261 is asking that you approve our new 2023-24 salary schedule. We appreciate your time and everything that you guys do for us, as well as the whole district.
Thank you. Thanks, Tim.
Hello.
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Heather Mia, and I'm the new communications officer for the CSEA Union. I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you both.
Thank you both.
Absolutely.
Congratulations.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to address you. I just have a few matters to report on. This last month, the CSEA Union held a special meeting on March 27th to vote to ratify the tentative salary schedule for the 2023-2024 school year. This motion was approved unanimously. At our last regular monthly meeting, which was just yesterday, April 18th, we had several site representatives reporting to us. Bechtel Grove thanked their custodian team for all the hard work and painting that they did over spring break. Brookside is very pleased with their new windows. Blosser Lane reported that they had a new fire alarm installed. And sure would like to express gratitude to their new bus driver, Kevin, and he is here tonight, so I'm going to be very excited. We really love all the care and attention you give to our students, and they absolutely adore you, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Transportation reported that they are working very hard and have been very busy covering all of the many end-of-the-year field trips. Coming up, we have our Classified School Employees Week. This will be the week of May 21st to the 27th. And the theme this year is something that I really enjoyed reading and learning about. I didn't know we had themes for such things. But the theme is Classified Professionals, Indispensable, Inspiring, and Invincible. And so if you see these posters around the sites, that is some motivation for us. And we're looking forward to it. So the CSEA Union E-Board is making plans to honor our classified staff members. But we would also like to invite everyone to take a moment to honor and thank a member of our classified staff when you get a chance. It doesn't have to be during that week. It can be at any time. And it's always greatly appreciated. So that is all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we have a vice president, we have a communications officer. Do we have a CSEA president?
We do. That's Maddie Owen, who is the former vice president.
Cool, thank you.
Stand up there, start shivering.
You don't mean cold.
Good afternoon, WUSD School Board. It's a pleasure to be here again in person speaking on behalf of the WTA this late afternoon. And congratulations, Tiffany and Heather, on your new positions. And the WTA would very much like to support you in appreciating the classified staff. I do want to thank Mr. Mark Beebe, Kelly Labus, and Aurora Chavez for meeting with me yesterday so that we can work out and faithfully implement the MTSS program. I have mentioned MTSS in almost every WTA comment since September, but I wanted to make sure that board members really, and the public, really know what it is and why we are so interested in it. Aurora's presentations actually get more detailed in it, but for me, maybe back up a little bit and let you know that MTSS stands for Multi-Tiered Systems of Support. The purpose of this is to address the needs of all students in the school system. And, the conversations the board just had about the cannabis industry, Alex, I agree 100%. It's tragic if we don't have a 100% graduation rate. This is why we're doing this, to reach all students, right? Absenteeism, this is all an aside, I didn't really write this down, but absenteeism is a very, very complex issue, right? There's many reasons for it. Some of it is the cannabis industry. Some of it is abuseful and neglectful homes. Some of it can just be economic disparities. The family doesn't have a car, so if the student misses the bus, it's not just a matter of being late that day. It's, I'm not coming here at all. It is a very complex issue, and it's a problem that hopefully we can find solutions to address, right? So, anyways, and in my experience as a high school teacher too, it's not just the cannabis industry, it's the heavy use and common use of it. Sometimes after lunch, it seems the attendance rate drops off. It's a reality. So, anyways, I'm sorry. We need to address the needs of all students in the school system and align and organize all the people and resources that serve our students to be on one unified page to ensure that nobody falls through the cracks. We need to keep robust data on student success. That's the tracking them with a single unified tool from K through 12. And their achievements, their challenges, and that we are efficient in what we do. And that this outlives any of us that are meeting and putting this in. If any of us leave our positions, that whoever fills our spots continues this, and we already have the system in place. That's important to me too, longevity. Sorry, I keep going off on rants, but we do this through collaborating on the best curriculums to adopt, engaging in teamwork and setting team goals, engaging with parents and collaborating with the community, and providing professional development opportunities for our educators to better serve our students, which, as we know at this time of continuing educator shortages, we have around 25% of our educators not considered by the state of California to be highly qualified in this district. In an environment like this, we need all the support we can get to do our best. Back in October, the school board approved an MOU required by county education systems to implement training for MTSS, and that's what we're discussing as of yesterday. This was a large part of the reasoning that I met with the district, and there are potentially some changes or addendums that need to take place in order to get everything working. But I'm very happy to engage in these conversations to make this very important part of our school system a reality. What I currently wish from the district leaders is that there is a greater sense of urgency in holding these meetings and making them more frequent in order to get this all sorted out more quickly. As I previously mentioned, we made a labor agreement approved by the board back in October, but talks on implementation are just happening now with less than 8 weeks to go. I agree with the philosophy of slowing down implementation and planning more effectively to ensure that we get it right, but this should not mean slowing down communication at all. In fact, it should mean quite the opposite. I also have not had the chance to meet concerning some HR issues, as I mentioned in the last board meeting, and this is partially my fault. However, I want the board to be aware that there are multiple positions not being brought before you to be cut, but they're being not planned to be filled for the 23 and 24 school year. And as the great shuffle of transfers and hiring to fill positions gets into high gear right now, I am increasingly hearing frustration from my members that there are vacancies that they should be entitled to transfer into as per our bargaining agreement that are not being posted by the district. But beyond this, I do believe that the board and the public should have the right to provide input and ask questions about these matters. I also want to mention that while the trimester system at the high school may have some difficulties arise when it comes to complying with state and federal requirements, the benefits to the students and educators are numerous and outweigh these challenges. And the educators at this site that I work at believe that the trimester system is worth preserving no matter what issues need to be worked out with it. Welcome, Ms. Melissa Ragsdale, and I appreciate that this GASB report was not created by you, so I will not comment on this matter. But it would be great to have a representative from Total Compensation Systems here, so that if we do have questions, we're able to ask those. And I don't know if this has been, if it's traditionally the GASB report that this has been tradition in the past, but there has been representations from different actuarial services and auditors that are here to do that. So just want to throw that out there.
Even just Zoom would be.
Our auditors are coming tonight to go over the audit, so they will be there.
The Christy White ones you're talking about? Okay, but they're not total
No,
compensation.
we're not. I need to mention auditors also, so.
Oh, okay.
that is-
I'm sorry, so yeah, I do know that sometimes we do have a representative here, and so I was confused whether that's traditionally the GASB report or something, another different
Yeah.
report. Okay. So I would like to give a shout out to the young artists in our district and Ms. Bakewell's involvement in putting on another successful Art Under 20 show. I went and was once again amazed at the depth and skill and personality shown by our young artists. And thank you everybody tonight. I look forward to hopefully many more conversations and meetings over the next 30 days to continuously drive Willits Unified towards continuous improvement and ultimately becoming the shining example of a successful school district for all our kids. Thank you.
Before you go, can I ask you a question? Sure. Okay, I'm a little interested in, kind of maybe in general, which positions we are not filling as opposed to letting go. I mean, I understand the difference. The result is the same, they don't exist, but.
So I would advise asking the district for that list
Oh, okay.
at this point in time because I don't want to give false information or spotty information just off the top of my head. I do have some written notes written down, but yeah, there's probably a lot more to discuss with that, but I just want to let the board know, keep asking questions, keep doing what you do.
No, thank you, I'll look into it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. My understanding is that the student board rep isn't able to attend tonight.
Doesn't look like it.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I thought that you knew some, whatever I needed to know. Mr. Superintendent, do you want to make comments?
Sure. On a personal note, I'm very truly enjoying my time here in my new community. Being from Fresno, I'm looking for more of that big orange thing in the sky, kind of shine down and give me a little bit more of my used to Fresno heat. It was interesting that I was up at Sherwood this morning and I was told that it snowed up there again. And snow has been my kryptonite since I've been here. Not that I'm Superman, but I just freak out when it snows. I don't know what it is about the snow, but I just, like transportation knows, go, get out there, go get people up. So thank you, Kevin, behind me, and any of the transportation people here for getting up there as fast as possible.
I think your pickup has a button that says.
Yeah, I'd never been in four-wheel drive before. I was like four-wheel drive because it gets me higher in the air. I didn't realize that it worked that way, so thank God. So it was helpful for about a month. So, the weather is drying up and the sun is out, although it's still for me a bit cool. All the people that I talk to have a tendency to make fun of me because I look literally bundled up all the time. We had a nice spring break. It was good for it seemed like it was a long time from winter break to spring break. It seemed like it was a bit longer this year for whatever reason than normal. Good 12, 13 weeks, I believe. It was almost like an October run, a little bit. So it was good that we got there. I truly hope that all of our staff had a very pleasant 9 days off and enjoyed themselves and went somewhere and spent a lot of time with their families and their friends. And so we're back. Been back for 3 days and ready for our final 7.5 week push to the end of the year. So, I don't know if when we were here in March, did we announce that the high school received a 6-year loss accreditation? Did you, I don't know if you heard that?
No.
Okay. Actually, I don't know if they actually did, but I'm just assuming that they did because that's the way the presentation played out. So he didn't tell us 6 years, but, you know, typically they don't tell you good things if you're gonna get 6 years. So I'm gonna make that assumption that we got one of those, or that y'all got one of those. We've been working very hard with MCOE since our last board meeting, since we got some things finalized on the 22-23 salary schedules. In our fiscal department, very specifically, Ms. Linda Walker has been burning some very significant midnight oil to get stuff to MCOE so we can get our staff their retro checks. And we'll be getting out that information as soon as I've got definitive confirmation that they're going to get them. So I kind of wanted to get that out, and I wanted to thank Linda Walker and our fiscal department for all their hard work. As always, I want to thank all of our staff for their phenomenal efforts. Certificated, classified, our connections with the community, my district office staff. It's a great team here, and I am, as I said earlier when we were talking about MTSS, beginning to have conversations that have some very significant relevance for our students and our staff about increasing and expanding that bubble to serve our students, and serve our community, and serve our staff. And so I would want to thank them, everybody, and I'm humbled to lead them. Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna do some board comments. Feel exciting? You wanna wait until later? You can be first or almost last or in the middle.
I have some things that I've been working on in regards to training for next year around LGBT issues. And I'd like to meet with Mark at some point soon so that we can talk about it, because I think I have a different angle on it that will make it a little bit easier. Other than that, my life has been crazy this past couple months. I lost my sister in January. There's been celebrations all through until about 2 weeks ago. We went down to San Fe Unidos Festival in Fresno with 1,700 participants all over the country and out of the state, or out of the country. So I am back at doing things again, and just so glad and starting to finally feel like I'm getting a little handle on some corner of this whole stuff. So thank you.
Thank you. Alex?
I'd like to thank Aurora for all the work you're doing, dealing with federal program monitoring, getting all that stuff under control. I know it's not just you, but the district as a whole, working our way through that quagmire that we got kind of left in after making some probably less than ideal choices in the not too distant past. I'm excited to hear that the MTSS program is actually starting to get underway. Anything that we do that provides better opportunities for our students is something that I can strongly get behind and push hard for. And I want to thank you all for staying on task. You know, these things take time, oftentimes, and sometimes it takes a while to get all the players in the right place at the right times. And I understand that there are a lot of things that get in the way, and if you, for want of a better way to put it, it took us a long time to get through all of our contract negotiations and so forth with all of the various players. It occupied an enormous amount of time on everybody's plates. Some things, just not enough hours in the day to get all these things done. And I offer that by not necessarily claiming it's an excuse, it's just a fact. But we're past those hurdles, and we're on a new ones. And hopefully we can make positive change. So, I know Jeannie and I have been participating in a number of different webinars that are focused on hopefully enhancing safety and security for all of our students and staff and the community in general as it relates to our campuses. We'll talk more about that later. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Jean?
So I type up a list now because I'm always the board member that at the end, after all the other board members give their comments, they'll say, oh, I forgot. So I've been typing up a list before I come to the board meetings. I hope that all the staff that had a spring break vacation had a wonderful, restful week off. And I wanted to thank all the staff who reached out to me after the last 2 board meetings with words of support and kindness. It is really appreciated. I will carry your words in my heart. Before each board meeting, I ask for clarification from the superintendent on any entries on the warrant list that raise red flags for me. There was quite a few this week, and Superintendent Beebe did a stellar job of responding thoroughly to my concerns. I'm very saddened by the unfortunate loss of life of 2 young people in Round Valley. I hope that the declaration of emergency has a positive effect on Round Valley's youth and community. And I've asked Superintendent Beebe to be aware of our own students to see if there's any that need any kind of support based on these 2 unfortunate losses. I attended a Zoom CSBA webinar on school safety, as Alex said, and that I understand that I'll be able to share the presentation with other staff, as well as there'll be, what's that word, I forgot, I thought of it. There's going to be links to links to resources on school safety that we'll also share. I attended a staff meeting at Blosser Lane, during which it was announced that current 3rd grade teacher Margaret Duran will be the new principal when current principal Nancy Lundberg retires at the end of this year. I wish them both the best. And I wasn't able to attend the opening night of Art Under 20 art show, as I was traveling out of state. Well, I was able to view the show recently, and congratulations to all the students who submitted artworks for a wonderful job. And congratulations to the new CSEA leadership. I look forward to working with you. That's it.
Thank you. Diane?
Thank you. I was over at Special Grove Middle School, and before going to the classroom, Principal Chris Henny, I met with Mark Beebe on where we were going to place Paul Bugelhart's plaque. We settled to place it in the trophy cabinet inside the reception area of the school office.
It's right at eye level, so you walk in, you see it.
Oh, good.
Louder?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Okay. Miss Chris Kenny and I went to 8th grade math with Conan McKay, where the students were working on x to the 3rd power and equivalent fractions, such as 3/5 minus 3/10. That was pretty good to watch the kids work with their partners. They also have cups with them that are green for I'm okay, I mean, I've got it, yellow, I'm questioning on this, and red, please come over and help me. And they work with their partners, and it's really nice. Then I went to 8th grade science and social studies class, 6th grade, and they were talking about the 3 branches of the government, and then they wanted to know why we were in the classroom. We were introduced what the school board person and how they get an election. They go, hey, this is going with our lesson today. She goes, the kids just started talking right then, and then we moved off to another class. But she goes, that was the best class because they saw it at this level instead of in a book or on TV. PE was down there with Jody Ward. They were doing that mile run that we all love as kids. They have to do 10 laps with the, to do that. And then they have tally cards that go through, and when they finished, they rested under the solar panels, waiting, and some were cheering for the other students to complete. They modified one of the mile run from 8 minutes. I remember we had to do it for 8 minutes. It extends up to 15 minutes, so special day class where the students were working on their animal reports, where they organized pictures and put them to the sequence of their paragraphs that they were doing. And then I went into the library with, and met Miss Christina, where she has a very a spacious area now. She has 3 long bookshelves going down, and along the back of that, a built room. Hoping the computer, oh yeah, she also has round tables now. She's hoping for computers so the kids can do some research on them while they're there. While updating, to put see which students, which books were still on the shelves. She found a book that she checked out and had her name on it when she was at Bechtel Grove School. That was really good. Okay, also she has a book club, and the students have done that. They sign up and request what book they would like, several books, and they would vote on those. Taking place during the lunch hour. Right now the book is Ghost by Jason Reynolds. Okay. After joining, it's about a boy in middle school that joins a team, and it happens to be the track team. Her participants are about 20 to 22 kids during the lunch hour. And lastly, the cafeteria has set up something, a new way for students to enter through the covered hallway due to the weather that they were having, and they do this during raining and snowy days. They come at the east side and then go down and get their lunches. There's also a table that has fresh fruit available all day, all the way till about 1:30 in the afternoon. So they can have anything. They can just come in and grab something and go back to their classroom. Okay? And I would like to thank Catherine McKay and her students that do the morning bulletin. They keep the student body and the personnel informed on the activities and what's at brunch, what's happening for brunch, what's happening, having birthdays, and spreading the cougar spirit. So that was a really nice, fun day. It was a sunny one too.
Good, thank you. My comments really aren't quite as flowery. It was a pleasant time. I don't mind the snow or the cold, so I like it real well. However, I have some concerns with some scheduling issues that have to do with the custodial department and their time standards, equity in their jobs, etc. So I'm hoping some of those get resolved by next month. I had asked before to have a report from the high school about trimesters and the pros and cons of them. And twice now I've heard from you how much you like them. I'm certain that I must just be talking to that little minority that don't appreciate it, because I have some serious concerns, and not just for PE, okay? I have concerns for other reasons, and because of that, maybe one of these board meetings, not necessarily the next one because it won't make any difference, but certainly before school next year starts, we could maybe just have the information on how many of a percentage, so to speak, of our students that find education easily accessible and challenged just appropriately, or very not necessarily challenging are appreciating the trimesters, and those kids that find learning in a school situation challenging, and how well they're doing in comparison to having quarters or semesters instead. Okay, then, otherwise,
Are we talking about a questionnaire? Or
no, I'm just getting a report. I'm talking about,
are you looking for,
I want information, yeah.
yeah, I mean, how do you expect us to get that information? Are you asking the
Teach-
superintendent to do a?
Go door to door?
No, a questionnaire of all students or all staff or?
No, as having been kind of a previous teacher, you can sort of deal with your class, and you see the strugglers and how there's a percentage generally that have a tough time, and how an extended amount of time might do them good. And you see your others who are just catching on rapidly and could use some other extension, and those who are really fitting your pacing.
I would argue we have those in every system, whether it's semester or trimester, so I'm trying to find what you're trying to balance here.
I want to discuss that, and the difference is that one might find if they were on quarters and the following quarter would have an additional chance to get more time to learn the things that needed to be done. Things that maybe in the past were an 18-week program as opposed to 12 or, however little program it seems to turn into. I've heard a lot about it. The teachers I've spoken with, because I asked them, is that going to be a difficult thing for you to kind of come and talk about? And she goes, not at all. It's pretty much the standard kids. The teacher said it would not be an issue, particularly that you get a pretty standard amount of kids almost all the time, every year, that, they just have struggles. And my personal philosophy has always been that trimesters are great for teachers, not as handy for parents or children. And I took those from most every one of my years where my more challenged students could have used longer times before I had the opportunity to make sure they got all the information they needed before those April tests. Okay, end of April, beginning of May. Okay, back to my.
Students, because I've been a little bit of an educational gypsy, there's not a schedule that I haven't seen, so I'd be happy to sit down with you, chat with you about all your questions, and
If
come
that's
up with
a better
something.
platform for them.
Absolutely, come up with some ideas about how to gain some data.
Oh, okay. My biggest concerns have been students who finished their trimesters and not able to, they finished trimester 1, couldn't go to trimester 2 and get either a repeat or an addition, and ended up, they're stuck in that cycle of behind.
At one point in a district, we were moving to a new schedule, so we had the ability to visit almost 40 schools in Northern California and look at all their schedules. And I've been on a block, been on a revolving block, been on a traditional trimester 4x4.
I'd love to see
So-
some concrete.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to go over all the experience that I've had and seen, because there's pros and cons to every single one of those systems.
I would appreciate that a lot.
And there's also variance between middle school, high school, and elementary in terms of what's good for each of those levels.
Yeah,
So-
usually,
I'd be happy to discuss that.
oh, okay. That would be really good, thanks. And so if there is a lack,
Sorry.
okay, that's good to know. And my last issue at this time is that I really noticed some very nice coming together of some classified people with WTA types. And it was just really nice to see that kind of, not bonding, I don't want to get carried away, but at least sitting and talking and being of a similar mindset. And I'm really glad that all of the negotiating, almost all of the negotiating is completed now for our whole district. And that once it's completely completed, then I'll really be happy, but until then, it's good. I did want to clarify, because some people I spoke with, and I'm hoping that those here can pass it on if you're not one of the ones, had a concern about the way the steps were done for classified, A through F, and then double A's through, or maybe it's double A through double F, and then A to Z, or whatever, and then a few other letters. Anyway, the thing is, there are spaces in the salary schedule that are identical, and that's because even though there won't be any more wait 5 years, you're waiting 5 years, okay? So now that that's been cleared up for me, I can clear it up for anyone I talk to and can't remember, okay? All right, then I'm done. Okay. Now, anyone from the public care to make a, this is the action discussion time, care to make a comment or do anything in particular that's either on or not on the agenda? So is this the point where I get to say there's something else that needs to be discussed on here? And something else added to the agenda? Or do I wait until I'm done with that and say, okay, consent agenda?
I may not be understanding your question. I
I
apologize.
thought we
No.
dealt with this.
No, we dealt with the part that has to do with a misunderstanding.
Okay?
Now we need to deal with the part that talks about the evaluation form being okay, right? I misunderstood
Yeah,
you twice
the
in a row?
No,
Oh,
maybe to a degree. So the evaluation form was handed out in closed session to the board
Right.
members. The evaluation form doesn't need necessarily to be approved by the board.
or the process we used to turn it in or discuss it?
No,
in-
that's all pretty much done in closed session because my contract exists rather
Okay.
separately. Now we can discuss that in another venue, another forum, but I may not be understanding what you're hoping to do. Are you trying to approve the form that I gave you?
Well, I thought I had to,
No,
but
you
if
don't-
that's
you
not
don't-
an
no,
issue,
You
then.
do not have to.
Okay, then. I didn't mean to skip public comments, however, so do we have any? How about your
You're-
Zoom friends? I know, I thought I meant to do, but since it didn't matter. Oh, okay. Then on B, for the consent agenda, number 7, what I just wanted made clear is that, because I looked at that calendar a couple of times before it dawned on me that the only changes were near the end, and they go to Thursdays. Am I on the wrong page?
No, you're good.
Oh, okay. That they went to Thursdays instead of the standard Wednesdays, and there is hopefully gonna be a good reason for that. Now, do I get to say that? Well, I said that part.
Are you asking me that question?
Only sort of. Is that what you want to announce, or you just want that okay, whether people realize that the meetings are gonna change to Wednesdays or not? I thought that was something that would be for discussion, more than just a quick consent agenda.
If you want to pull it, we can discuss it, and then you can approve the rest of the consent agenda, and I can give you the reasons why.
Okay, that's good. I want it clear.
Okay. And
All
then-
right, so from 1 to 9 minus 7, do you have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as modified.
And wait about you.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? None to the left. No abstainers. Okay, so pulling 7, because I figured we'll be that anywhere else. Okay, I want, if you don't mind, please.
No, not at all. So, one of the main reasons is that in our regular dates that we normally have our board meetings, since we're gonna be moving to, I wanna say City Hall, but that's not the right word. That's the right word?
Yes.
Okay, so City Hall, fair enough. So we'll be moving to the chambers of City Hall, beginning with the August board meeting. Okay? Well, they have their meetings twice a month on Wednesdays. So it's actually on they're always scheduled on one of our days. Okay? So we want to move to Thursday. There's also a secondary reason, and it's actually a little bit important for us. As it is right now, on Wednesday, we have to post on Friday afternoon. Okay, so what this does also for us is it allows us now to post on Monday afternoon by putting it on Thursday, because it gives us a 72-hour window to Thursday. So it's a little more flexibility for us. Those are really the only 2 reasons, but primarily the main one is because they're busy on the Wednesdays that we normally have.
Okay. Okay, and So before we have any other discussion, or can we just have any other discussion? We need to put a motion on the floor.
You would now ask for the exact same motion on the consent,
Okay.
or you could open it for other discussion if there would have to be questions, or you can discuss it.
The typical process is to look for a motion to approve and then,
Discuss,
and
right?
then look for a second. If you don't get either, it dies for lack of a motion,
Yeah.
and there's no reason for discussion. And then once you've got a first and a second, then we open up the discussion with the board, and you can ask for, as the president, you can ask for further discussion from the public as well. But if you don't get a first and a second, there's no reason for discussion.
If we don't get a first and a second, it also means we don't move and we don't change the dates.
That would be correct.
Okay, so,
Let me back up. If you don't get a vote in approval, so we can have we can have a first and a second, and then all the discussion, and then we can have a vote, and it could still fail, and we could still end up with the same schedule we have.
I understand that,
Allocation.
thank you. And what?
And location.
And locations, exactly. Oh, okay. Well, let's go standard. Do we have a motion, a motion, I'm sorry, on the idea of the.
I'll make a motion to approve item 7 on the
Thank
agenda.
you, that's easier.
I will second
And
it.
you'll second it, all right. All those in favor? No, I want to
No,
discuss it.
because now I'd like to have some discussion.
Okay, you know, just need a sign, give me finger deals, and I'll figure it out. Okay, do we have some discussion?
Yes,
Good, go ahead.
if I may. Is it costing the district anything to use the facilities at City Hall?
Not yet.
Yeah. We're waiting for that shoe to drop, or we ask that question?
Well, based upon,
I believe because we're a nonprofit.
we're a nonprofit, we get a special circumstance, just like a nonprofit that wants to use our facilities.
Once we commit to utilizing those facilities, is there anything preventing the city from basically saying, no, we don't need you guys here anymore? I guess what I'm saying is, are we gonna have a contract? Is there something that?
We would sign a yearly facility use agreement.
Very good.
Yearly?
We signed one.
We actually signed one.
Next time.
Okay.
So I just want to say that, the change is fine with me. I think it would be good for the board and for the school district to try out that venue and see if it makes a difference in our, board meetings. But I'm also gonna miss getting my packet on Fridays because I use the weekends to get it ahead of it, so that by Mondays I sort of have an idea of what's on the agenda. And and not just what's on the agenda, but an understanding of what's on the agenda. And, if I didn't have the weekends to do that, I guess I would adjust, but it would be an adjustment.
I think there's ways to work on that stuff. The other question I have is, obviously that venue is designed for these kinds of meetings. Does it accommodate our technology, video, all that kind of stuff?
Yes. Everything.
And then with respect to the comment that Jeannie just made, and I've brought this up a couple different times, and this, I mean, I haven't been told it can't be done, and if it can't be done, I'm curious to know why, but I would like to see us to have access to the agenda as it's being built throughout the course of the month. In other words, if next week you put something on there we know is going to be on the next board meeting, and we once a week put out a tickler to the board, new stuff on the agenda for the upcoming meeting, so that we know it's going to be there. We can be keeping up to date with it all month long, and we don't have to wait for that agenda to be posted, officially posted, for us to be getting that information, at least some of that information. I don't know, Rochelle.
Well, you guys approve a yearly agenda calendar, so that has already been approved and in a packet of what is coming monthly. I love that you have that much faith in me that I work on it all month long, but it's typically the week before of me building the agenda and receiving the backup from people. So it's not something that it's not a working document throughout the week, or throughout the month, but you guys do have a calendar that you approve of what comes on the agenda every month.
Right, just that I'm just wondering if that backup information can be I mean, add it as it comes in, for example.
I mean, it is. I put it on the agenda as soon as I receive it, but typically, you know, we're waiting, those deadlines are the week before. And I do still plan on trying to get it posted on Friday. A lot of the times I am waiting for I am waiting for the backup from someone else to post. So that is still my goal.
Right, I know the minimum from a legal standpoint is 72 hours.
Right.
There's nothing stopping us from having basically a board policy that says you're going to post it on Friday.
I mean, and I like to have it done by Friday to button up, you know, to have it all done. So that is still my goal.
There are options. Okay.
Thank you for all that you do.
I have to really agree that it's very handy to get it on a Friday, because I do need that weekend. My week doesn't always go as smooth as I would like, so I can sit there and read all the stuff that comes through. I do try very much to be at the DO before 4 o'clock on Friday, so I can pick it up as a hard copy, because for me, it's a whole lot easier to fix typos and do all the other little things that sometimes come to me when it's on paper. However, if it was just in the computer, I suppose I could deal with that and then pick it up on Monday, but it would be a much better deal. And so much of the information that comes on here hasn't always been on those little calendar things that we got once way in the back. And good, because things come up. I mean, I wouldn't expect it to be on that little calendar. But I too would really appreciate a deadline of Friday at the latest, regardless of what day we have a board meeting. My other concern is a little bit about the location, and mostly it's just optical, I guess. I'm not real sure how much I like the idea of sitting above a few steps on a platform, looking over at all the people who need a turn to talk. You know, that hits me rather uncomfortably. Maybe we could try it for a while. You know, a year is sort of a long time to see how much we all feel comfortable or uncomfortable. But, you know, I don't know. So anyway, I just have to put that out there. Okay, so anybody else have a comment or 10 they'd like to make? Then I guess we vote. All those in favor, well, so we're only voting to the location and stuff like that. Our comments will sort of be considered because you have an understanding. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 And opposed and abstained, we are under. Letter C.
I asked our auditors to join us because,
He's
okay, I did
Michael?
not feel comfortable speaking about an audit that happened prior to my time. So Michael Ash from Christie White and Associates should be here to address our audit.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes,
How's everyone doing tonight?
good.
Good. Well, I just wanted first to thank everyone for inviting me here tonight. My name is Michael Ash. I am a partner with Christie White, and I'm here to present the 21-22 audit report. So this is the district audit report as of June 30th, 2022. Normally this report would have been presented in January. The district, due to some turnover, did have to file an extension, so that's why we're presenting this to you now. So every school district, charter school, county office of education have an annual audit completed, and that audit really consists of 3 parts. The first part of the audit is the financial statements themselves. So this is all of the district information as of the year-end date, June 30th, 2022, and then all of the activity for that year. And then what we do as auditors is we give our opinion on that. So in our opinion, the financial statements as presented were fairly stated in all material respects. So that's an unmodified opinion. That's the best opinion that you can possibly have. Because you're a school district, we have to do your audit under what's called government auditing standards. What that means, if there are any internal control weaknesses in financial reporting or any non-compliance that's material to the financial statements, we do have to report it in what's called an audit finding and a financial statement audit finding. I'm happy to say that we did not have any financial statement audit findings that we noted during the year. The second component of a school district audit is it's called federal compliance, and it's a single audit. So the district spends over $750,000 in federal monies during the year. So there's an audit that we have to do that's called a single audit. There are certain compliance requirements with your federal programs that we have to look at. And I'm happy to say that we had an unmodified opinion on that as well. And then finally, the last audit opinion is on state compliance. So there's a state audit guide that comes out every year. And they ask us to look at everything from attendance to your instructional time, your instructional materials, hearing, your school accountability report cards. It's a very extensive, about a 50-page audit guide that updates each year. We did give an unmodified opinion. We did have one minor state compliance finding, very, very minor. It was on the Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant. And there was just no evidence that that plan that the district had was actually submitted to the County Office of Education. So it is very minor, but that is in the audit guide. There's no financial impact at all to that finding, and shouldn't be any impact going forward. That's really a summary of the audit results. Overall, it's a very positive audit. I just want to say we've worked with Melissa at her other district before, so I would expect with her on board, she's very familiar with our audit process. Her audits at Leggett Valley were very clean, and she did a great job, so I would expect the audits to continue to be clean as they were under Nikki. So that's all I had, but really I wanted to come if you had any specific questions on the audit report that I could help answer.
Having just received the document tonight, it's a little bit difficult. One of the things I was looking through the findings, I didn't see anything with respect to controls for ASB funds like we typically had in the past. Is that because we actually did a good job, or was that something that was just left out of the audit?
Oh, no, we definitely look at your ASB. No, the district has really worked hard to improve those. I know in the past we have had found some ASB issues at the district. I know, with COVID and the pandemic, I know 21-22 was somewhat normal, a lot more normal than the 2 years before. But I know that some of the ASB activity wasn't as much as it had been pre-COVID. So that'll be something that we'll look at this year and make sure that those procedures that we noted during COVID that improved a little bit, make sure that those are still there and in good shape.
Thank you.
Yep.
We did get it before, so.
Thank you for coming, Michael.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate your assistance.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
No questions here.
Yeah, no, oh, okay, good. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Have a
You're
good
very
night.
welcome.
Night.
Good night. Thank you.
That must mean that there's a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the 21-22 orders.
And the second?
I'll second. Good, what you need, let's do. Okay, I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Now,
We jumped ahead and skipped,
oh, the MOU in the,
were those part of the consent?
That was part of consent.
Okay, never mind.
You're good. I'm tracking.
so, we're on the public disclosure financial fiscal impact of proposed agreement with Willits Unified School Employees, Chapter 261. That means that, kind of, I
That
guess
is
you're all.
me. I worked very closely with MCOE and they double checked all of my numbers. I included to break it down in our multi-year projection, we are hitting our reserve in the third year out as of right this summer, which is 24-25. And that does include any reductions that you'll see in my upcoming budget report, as well as it includes any salary agreements that were settled prior to this one. So it includes everything that we have each year right now, and at this time, we are in our reserve with the classified salary.
You're saying we're gonna hit that 3% mark
Yes,
at the end of the third year,
yes, at the end of the third year, right now, yes,
assuming nothing else changes.
correct.
And can you just explain to me why the child development fund and the cafeteria fund and the adult ed fund and all the rest of those are involved in this?
Because they have classified employees that they're staffed by, and then the way the financials work is that they are their own account. So preschool funds are a separate source, so they're their own account. So everything general ed is Fund 01, whereas preschool is Fund 12, cafeteria is Fund 13, and so it's broken down that way. So because of the funding requirements and reporting requirements, it's broken down that way, and they have classified employees who are involved.
So you take the classified employees' costs out of their fund as opposed to the general fund?
Because those employees are being paid out of those specific funds. So anything preschool related, Fund 12, their staff is paid out of Fund 12. Their funding source goes straight into Fund 12. It doesn't go into our general fund.
Well, okay, so I was thinking that might be the answer, and what I'm confused about is that then when it is said that it takes from the general fund X amount of money to fund all the increases, et cetera, in salaries, how do you calculate that? Do you put it back into the general fund and then take it out? Because when you, if I'm not mistaken, of course, when the money is taken from the general fund to go into the cafeteria fund or the preschool fund or the whatever fund, it's taken in a chunk and it's put there. So when you take from the general fund, that's what's left over from those separated out ones, right?
If I'm understanding what you're asking correctly, so this, you're not taking anything out, so that's just the impact to Fund 12, Fund 13, and the adult ed fund. I'm not sure what the fund number is off the top of my head. And what that does, it increases your contribution. It does increase the cost of that particular fund, and it increases your contribution from Fund 01 to that particular fund. So but what every budget reporting period, while I do include reports from all the other funds, you're only looking at Fund 01, so you see the impact through your contributions being increased.
Okay. I will have to look at that and maybe meet with you because I'm still a
That's
little
fine, we can meet anytime.
All right, yes, it just struck me as a little different this time around. That's good.
It has explained a lot of different things to a lot of different groups, because it's a whole nother language.
No, it just concerns me that it is where it goes. So, I guess we need an approval. Actually, we don't, right, of a public disclosure? Oh, a motion, I mean, for a public disclosure. Fiscal,
I would say D.
there you go, we need a motion
Motion on
for D. That suits me.
I move we approve the public disclosure for the fiscal impact.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. And abstentions being no. Okay, so an approval of the tentative agreement with School Employees Association, Chapter 261.
Paul, did you just vote?
No
Opposed?
to that?
Yes.
Yeah. If I don't understand it better than right this instant, I can't say
Just
yes.
curious.
Oh, yeah, I'll speak louder. Any discussion on E by any chance? W, I mean SC, what is it? CSC. Oh, you need the motion first, oh, gosh. Go ahead. Does anyone care to?
I'll move that we approve the tentative agreement with CSCA, Chapter 261.
I'll second it.
Okay. And all those in favor? Or discussion before we eye ourselves? Okay, then. Do you have anything to say? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Now, we're at F, right? Am I speaking down?
No,
You're
my
done.
pad went crazy.
Okay, so what we need is a motion to approve Willits Unified School District 23-24 classified salary schedule.
I'll make a motion to approve.
And
I'll second
seconded. Good. All in favor, say aye.
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 And those are yes. How about in a, approval of G. That's to go voting, right? That's pretty standard every year, isn't it?
I move that we approve appointment of Melissa Ragsdale to the Director of Fiscal Services as the designated alternative voting representative to the Mendocino Lake Adult and Career Education Consortium.
Second.
Okay. Any questions or anything? Okay, so as a designated alternative, do you need to go to all the meetings or only if someone is not
No,
available?
only if someone who is an actual voting member is unavailable.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just so they can have their quorum if our voting members are ready.
Right, I was just concerned if, alternatives to some things have to attend regardless in case they're called, and I didn't know that.
And this is important now because all votes have to be done in person now.
I had heard that and I didn't know if that was true. No more proxies?
No more Zoom for.
No more Zooms? Oh my gosh. All right, so, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Letter H.
Okay, so what I have here is a revised, or a budget revision / reduction plan. It is required by ECHO to present a revised budget after a public disclosure, but it's up to the County Office of Education as to whether or not to enforce it. And in our particular case, they did push and encourage us to do it. So, this model, you can see it, I've included the backup for it, but I like to just kind of type up a little background to make it easier to read than all the forms.
I
with all the
appreciate
numbers.
that very much.
So in our revised budget model, I did increase our LCFF revenue for the next 3 years based on our FICMAT and county office provided LCFF calculator. Then also, in our revised budget model, I increased all of our salaries by the approved upon disclosures and salary negotiations. But so some of our other changes in comparison to supplemental are 23-24 certificated salaries decrease. And this results from defunding vacant budgeted positions that will not be filled, as well as accounts for salary savings created by staff movement within the district, such as existing staff filling new vacant positions. Enrollment projections and numbers make it unnecessary to fill all new vacant positions. And while I have to create this and plan for reductions, if enrollment increases and changes are not necessary, this is not a plan we have to stick by. It's simply an update to our multi-year projection that you guys see in every single reporting period. It is a working document. And at 23-24, we also show a classified salary decrease, and this is simply, we're not removing any positions, we're just defunding some vacant positions that have been budgeted for and not filled. You can see the increase I did include the increase in benefits, and if you read through all this, a lot of the changes are just pulling out one-time expenditures as well as unfunded positions that have been budgeted for that are not being used. Some of the expenditures we're pulling out are the broiler costs at Willits High School, that was $100,000 that we are not going to be paying for next year. And just things like that. We didn't want to make necessary reduction, or we didn't want to make reductions necessarily, but just pull out the expenditures that we don't anticipate having in future years. So, are there any questions about?
Why did the county insist on this process?
The county insisted on this process after their presentation of second interim and the public disclosures showing the district deficit spending in future years at such a high amount.
Okay.
So some of these, the decrease in materials and supplies, could some of these be covered by in the next bond draw?
So,
Since they have to do with,
can I respond to that one?
yeah.
So right now, as we work together, Melissa
Shane, I were going through all of the departments, all of the budgets, every single expenditure. The school sites have a specific budget, and the expenditures actually ended up almost 3 times the amount of the allocated funds. So that's where we're looking at sticking with an allocated budget and really taking a look. With all those extra COVID funds, there was a lot more spending than what we were used to prior to COVID. And that's where we're looking at those supplies fund.
Okay, thank you so much.
As I mentioned in one of the meetings that we've had in the past few months, this is a galvanizing opportunity to find out how we can become more efficient as a system with our fiscal resources in relationship to our staff and students. And this is one of those opportunities to find out where are we spending money, how we're spending money, and if you give a cited budget as a former high school principal, if you give me X number of dollars, I'm going to spend X number of dollars. Okay? This is kind of how those things play out. So if you give me $10 and I spend 12, then I probably need to have a conversation with me in the past or our fiscal director. So.
I don't understand the sentence that says, despite decreases in salaries due to the overall increase in salaries as a result of public disclosure approval, which is the 23-24 benefit increases.
So overall, benefits or salaries are increasing by a percentage, so benefits are also increasing by that percentage. So just because we're unfunding some positions, benefits are changing, and that also includes tonight's public disclosure that I brought. So we still have to show an overall growth in benefits. Because when you measure benefits, it's for certificated and classified altogether. So say there's a decrease in this area, your benefits might decrease a little bit, but overall, the growth and the change over time still increases.
Because of the benefit costs in another department?
Because you measure your benefits all together, so you just.
So if it costs me $100 to buy 10 people benefits, and I'm no longer hiring 2 of those people, it doesn't go down to $8 or whatever it is, it's gonna stay at 10 or go to 12? Unless, I don't understand how to understand that.
I was going to say, I understand where you're coming
Oh,
from.
okay.
So I do though, I understand that. So I'm not 100% sure how to explain that because, because it's in comparison to second interim. So I'm taking numbers we looked at second interim, and I'm looking at the decrease in this revised budget model in our multi-year projection. I'm looking at that decrease. But we also just approved our public disclosures, so I do have to still show that increase of
It could
salaries.
be there if you didn't lower that position or whatever.
I'm not sure that I understand what you're asking.
It's okay, when I meet with you about the other, I meet with you for this too, thank you. Okay, do you have any other questions? Other than mine, of course. I'm done.
So the public disclosures we just approved are not included in this?
No, because they were not approved. Well, no.
So sort of like you did this yesterday and today it's.
No.
No, they are.
They are.
They are.
They are.
They are. Everything is there.
Thank you,
Yeah.
that makes me feel a little better.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Come on, it's Melissa's first time.
I know,
Come
you
Come
don't
on now.
wanna, it's just, if you don't understand stuff, it's hard to figure it out the next time that it comes
No,
up.
it is all in there, and I did work with MCOE. MCOE has had this for 2 weeks and looked everything over as well as the public disclosures.
so I'm trouble finding it. Can you take me to the page that shows us fund balance, unrestricted and restricted, in each of the out years?
And our budget model, yes, that would be our multi-year projection.
And just tell me what page to go to and I'll see if I can find it.
So I believe it'll be page 6.
page
Yeah,
say
so-
No,
fall.
I was wrong.
Me too, that's. I mean, I'm sorry.
No.
Okay. So on page,
Well, 6 might be the answer for me, if it's unrestricted and restricted together.
it's unrestricted, restricted, multi-year projections, general fund.
So I got net increase, decrease in fund balance. So I'm showing for projected year totals, I'm not sure what that is, but the 23-24, we're showing a decrease in fund balance of 1.6 million. And then the following year, we're showing a decrease in the fund balance. Is that a decrease in addition to the 1.6 million? Or is
So-
that,
They're individual years, so I guess it would be an increase to the additional. So at the bottom of that, where you see our ending fund balance, that then becomes our beginning fund balance, and in that next column is where that comes out of there. And then in the projected year totals, that's current year, and that will probably be what our year ends looks like.
I'm trying to find where you are, that's pretty
About
sharp.
200,000.
Yeah, for us.
Okay,
Net increase,
I finally found where you are.
there's so many places here where it says the net increase, decrease in fund balance on page.
So at the top of the page, it should say general fund, multi-year projections, unrestricted / restricted.
Well, it just jumped from page 5 to page 1, so I'm confused.
They're different sections.
Yes, so the top of it, so I have a separate form that I put unrestricted in, separate form that I put restricted in, and then SACS, our state accounting software, puts it into that restricted, which is how
So
we
maybe I
get
can
the
put it this way. In 23-24, we're gonna be deficit spending by how much?
In 23-24, for this model, we are deficit spending $1.6 million.
24-25,
2.7, actually 2.8, pretty much.
2.8. That seems like a rather large sum of money to try and find a solution for.
It is a rather large sum of money, and this is after our planned reductions,
That's after our plan reduction.
after our planned reductions, which is the purpose of this whole presentation.
Okay.
And I would like to note, though, that we just took out what we could at this time. There, obviously, if enrollment decreases continue and we don't have that LCFF revenue, then other changes will have to be made.
And the state budget doesn't look good.
The only thing that takes me to though, is that the amount of money coming into the district, projected to come into the district, is, okay, it says down 13%, it's like $4 million, right? But then the following year for 24-25, it's less than $1 million, it's about 900,000.
So the issue there is some of our one-time, that has nothing to do with our LCFF funding source. So
That's
that's
right.
what our main funding source is. The rest of them are for some of our one-time funds, such as the Arts Music Block Grant or the Learning Recovery Block Grant, any of our ELOP dollars, any of our one-time funds that we've been handed in the last year or two. We don't recognize those until we spend some of them, so some of them are showing up as revenue this year, even if we got most of them last year. So we can't recognize them as revenue next year, even if we still are sitting on some of the carryover. So that's why our revenue decreases so heavily, is because we are no longer receiving all these one-time funds.
Oh, okay, but my confusion is, if you drop $100,000 of income, okay, it's difficult for me to understand how we lose $1 million at the end. I mean, all these, we're doing it says a decrease in the fund balance, and it gives all these new reasons, but, and they're into the millions. And it's just odd to figure out how come the spending of these things on, employee benefits, et cetera, those are a concern to me. They all seem to have jumped pretty largely, when it looks like we're cutting people, not cutting, letting those go that are.
Yeah, we're not
in our place.
So the issue is the growth over of 25%, honestly. So that's going to keep growing. They already get their step and column and things keep growing, so.
And also with TK, our numbers can potentially change dramatically there, increasing the amount of TK classes as well, and change quite a bit. Because we're looking, right now we're working on determining if we need a third class, based on numbers. We're trying to see if we're gonna have enough. Right now, we have, earlier this week I checked, we had 30-something students registered for TK. And it depends on how registrations go. If they keep increasing at this rate, then, especially if we are now increasing the amount of time that we're providing services to the kiddos based on the universal TK, UPK, then more people would be up to participate and our numbers would go up.
And realistically, every single budget reporting period I've done in the 3 years of doing school district finance, my third year out has been different every single time. So it is really hard to estimate when you don't know what our ATA or enrollment are. I know for a fact we're getting a handful more students next year, and we could be getting even more or losing more. So it's really hard to tell.
Well, this board's real well.
Getting more, getting more.
Because we haven't had a third year out that's been correct in 20 or 30 years.
Yes, it's state required that we do it, but it really is based on what they're predicting right now. We don't know.
And the state's pushing for the 9 hours, so that means if we're providing a longer TK, more families would be up to participate in that percentage.
Yeah.
We also have to find a way to improve our attendance, so we actually take advantage of the full ADA.
Yes, all those
Lots of
things.
factors.
All the moving parts.
Okay,
Okay,
I
so.
appreciate all the work that you do, Melissa, and taking the job when you knew you were gonna.
And thank you for your patience with all the questions. I know the staff has had a lot of questions, and you've been very open and welcoming. Thank you. You're welcome.
Sue, we have a motion for the approval of the mid-year budget, revised budget. Are we ready to vote? Oh, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Me too. All opposed is abstaining. Now it's discussion time.
This is something I've asked to be put on the agenda. Been kind of sticking in my back of my mind for a long time. I've talked over Mr. Beebe a couple different times, and we've walked more than one of the campuses talking about some of these things. It's a larger subject, and it has, I would say the thing that's driving my interest in campus security is, has to do with what's in the news on a regular basis nowadays. And I hate to even say it out loud, but it's mass shootings that are happening in schools. As a board member, I have to tell you that it's probably one of the things that keeps me awake at night, although I don't sleep much anyway, but what little bit I do get, I just wasn't interrupted by worries of something like that happening here. Now, if you think about it from a statistical standpoint, we're perfectly fine. There are literally thousands of schools in California, and the chances of it happening here are statistically remote. But that doesn't mean it can't. And it doesn't even have to be a school shooting per se. It could be any number of violent acts. That's just the tip of the iceberg when you start to look at the whole thing. Campus security is a bigger issue, and I'm not talking about just for security and the safety of students. I'm talking about the security and safety of all of our staff. And in my discussions with Mr. Beebe, for example, I want our schools to be welcoming, and I want them to be the sort of thing that our public knows that they can come here and interact with the staff and the students and be welcome. I don't want our schools to look like prisons by any stretch of the imagination, or be run like prisons by any stretch of the imagination. But on the other side of the coin is I certainly don't want to be sitting here and apologizing to the community for a tragedy that I hope never ever occurs here. That said, I think that we would be remiss if we ignore opportunities to try and make our schools as reasonably safe as we can, while still trying to make them as inviting as we can to our public and our staff and our students. That said, Jeannie and I, for example, we both participated in a CSBA hosted webinar that took place yesterday that speaks directly to campus security and how different school districts are dealing with it. And it's pretty interesting about what some of these campuses are doing. Some of them are doing a better job with things like fencing and single point entry systems, and some are using resource officers. Some have people literally, their sole job is campus security in some of these larger institutions or larger school districts, where we simply don't have those kinds of resources. They're talking about having gotten grants for video surveillance systems and a variety of other things that they've done. They've improved their policies and procedures in terms of making sure doors are locked when classrooms are in session. They're talking about providing emotional support and things like that for students, so that they can run active shooter drills and things like that. There's just a wide range of things, but the one thing that was really apparent is that every one of these school districts, every one of these campuses is different in every circumstance. And if you take, I'll use Novato as a classic example. Novato is surrounded by other cities very close by. If something happens in Novato, Novato has a fairly robust police department. Obviously, it's sized to deal with a population of over 50,000 people. But right next to Novato, literally moments away, is San Rafael. And it is equally has a police department that's sized for that size. In addition to that, they got Sheriff's Department and CHP in large numbers in those areas as well. What I'm really trying to say is, because of that environment they are in, they have a huge number of resources in terms of law enforcement that can respond to an incident that happens in one of those areas. Not to mention the EMS response that's just enormous down there, which I was a part of for many years. And we trained with, the fire department literally trains hand in glove with those agencies to provide resources in those kinds of scenarios, not to mention many others. Now you contrast that with Willits. Where do we get help when law enforcement needs help from Willits? How far away are they coming from? The Sheriff's Department is not a huge operation, but they cover an enormous space. And the Sheriff's Department that we would hope to come here to help in a similar situation here, maybe an hour and a half away, Covelo or Leggett or wherever. There could be a CHP officer in the area, maybe not. Willits PD, how many people do they have on staff, on duty on any given day during school hours, or even during after school hours when there's an event going on? My point is the resources that are available here are dramatically less than what would be typical that would respond to a similar event in a much more urban setting. So what I'm interested in finding is resources that can help us to be better prepared if such an event should ever occur here. And again, I'm hoping it never ever does. I pray that it never ever does. But I don't want to be caught flat-footed and have something occur here and us be looking at this after the fact. So one of the things that I did yesterday during the webinar is I reached out to those folks and I asked them what resources are out there that we can tap into to find out what we can and should be doing. And I understand, it's my opinion that if we were to do everything that was possible to improve our safety and security in our campuses, I'm sure it would cost millions of dollars. That's not the issue for me. The issue for me is identifying what we can do and put together a plan so that we can build towards that security at some point in the future. whether we do it campus by campus, or we do a little bit at each campus, or whatever. In addition to that, I want to find out what technologies are out there to help us bridge those security gaps. As an example, if you think back, Oakland was really proud of a few years ago when they got that shot detection technology that allowed them, if a shot was fired in a neighborhood in Oakland, they could pinpoint literally where that shot was. I don't want to pinpoint where the shot was, it's too late. For me, that's too late. But in terms of technology, that's amazing. There's another technology that has been reached out, I found them on the internet, and they reached out to me, called Zero Eyes. I have no idea if they're the right answer for us or not, that's not the point, but I'll give you an example of another technology. They use an artificial intelligence model that taps into the security monitors on your campus. So they would put, in your server room here, they would put some equipment, and it would monitor all the security cameras. And when that artificial intelligence bot sees what it recognizes as up to 30% of a firearm, it automatically sends that data, that video feed, to a monitoring spot where humans are watching. They review that quickly and go, oh my God, that's a real gun, and it's on this campus, or it's coming to that campus because it's in the parking lot. They would start the alarm at that point, and hopefully buy you enough time to intercede. Now, they're suggesting that in most of these school campus shootings, the individual that does this deed oftentimes prepares as much as 5 to 30 minutes in advance. They arrive at a parking lot or nearby, they're putting on whatever gear they're going to put on, they're loading their weapon. Meanwhile, this Zero Eyes program theoretically would see this and start the alarm and hopefully intercede before your shot's fired. Again, I'm not advocating for that. I'm advocating for us to be looking at those kinds of technologies to see what would work for us. So in short, I'm hoping to identify a company or a set of companies that can provide us with that expertise that can come in and look at all our campuses, look at our access control, obviously zero in some of our campus, but not too bad in Blossom, for example. Recommend what changes we should consider. Recommend what changes we should consider from a technology standpoint, for example, this Zero Eyes kind of technology. Recommend changes with respect to our policies and procedures on how we keep people safe on campus in terms of locked doors, with window coverings, with whatever, and look at policies in terms of how do we address an active shooter or a physical threat on campus, whether we run, hide, or fight, or one of those other models that are out there. And I'm looking for a comprehensive kind of a report that says, this is what we should be considering at the high school, this is what we should be considering at Blosser, this is what we should be considering at Becker Grove, and so on. I don't know that those guys are out there. I believe that they are. I can't believe that there's no one out there that's providing that kind of services for school districts. So I reached out to the fire chief or the police chief that was part of that webinar yesterday, and I talked with him, and he says he does know of several of those companies, and I got his email, and we're going to be conversing and getting some of that information. And so I'm hoping to provide that information to Mr. Beebe, and hopefully as a board, we can take a look at moving forward with trying to improve campus security on a lot of different levels. So,
Thank you.
All in. Let's connect, let's work. Cool.
Again, I don't know what it costs, but I think that's secondary. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Cybersecurity as well, or is that just an addition?
It's a separate issue.
Any type of security is hand in hand. Alex did a great job of summarizing a lot of points. What he didn't go into is that there is an enormous breadth and depth to the services out there, and you have to figure out a way to funnel down to eliminate the variables. So we have a rural, mountain, isolated, elevated, 100-year-old system. Those are the facts. So now you've got to find a company that or an organization that comes in to do multiple levels of that. You know, physical structure, response time, local resources, lack of local resources. And then you talk about the cybersecurity piece. Now you're talking about student information system, you're talking about dealing with public information, staff information. Although most of our staff information is housed at MCOE, but we're part of that. We're part of their spine. You know, we're connected as one long spine. And so those become, if you take out our electricity, you also take out our phones. So that, again, that's part of cybersecurity. So we've been slowly introducing an emergency management system called Catapult that's going to make communication a lot more seamless, but that's just one piece. You know, this is one piece to it. And then there's multiple pieces and variables to begin to address the various safety issues in your sites.
There's other things to consider also. If you take a look, if all of us are familiar with Uvalde, it's been all over the news, and some of the things that some would argue went wrong there. Most of the models suggest that if there's an active threat on campus, when law enforcement gets there, they're to engage immediately. Immediately. They take the target away from, they force whoever's there, they force the threat to utilize law enforcement as the target instead of the students and staff. They didn't do that in Uvalde. And that part of it has to do with this catapult model that we're talking about, this incident command system. They worked on building the incident command system out at Uvalde before they decided to do anything about the threat. Most of the models now are strongly suggesting that we don't worry about building a command structure initially. We go confront the threat. Now, that works pretty good in a place like Nevada, because 2 officers are going to be on scene there literally within a couple of minutes at most. There's going to be 40 officers going to be on scene within the next 10. That's not going to happen here. It's just not going to happen. You might get 2 here within the first 5 minutes if everything works really, really well. That next 2 or 3 or 10 are going to get here over a longer projected period of time. So the question is that immediately going after the threat the best answer? I don't know. That's something that has to get worked out with law enforcement. And it's also something that needs to get determined in this bigger discussion of how do we manage one of those kinds of threats on one of our campuses. And again, I don't want to talk about just a school shooting, because that's not the be-all, end-all. There are lots of different kinds of threats that can become a problem on campus, but that's probably one of the worst. Anyway, we need to have this discussion, and I believe we need to get help with this discussion, because, to be quite frank, we don't know what we don't know. None of us here on our campus that I'm aware of, there's no one here that I'm aware of that is an expert in basically campus security is basically what I'm best way to put it. But I know that there are folks out there that are, and we need to engage some of those people.
Okay. So we are fortunate enough to have people with experience that kind of been down the path. That's a plus. Probably the best in your mind at this moment is, and yours, I'm not going to get too kind of out of that, is that we put it on an agenda for 2 or 3 months down the road, or is that too soon or too slow?
I don't know. I think.
Well, you've done a lot of work in a month. I mean,
Yeah.
is that?
I think over the next couple of days, I might actually have quite a bit more information, because I finally reached out to somebody who actually knows something about this. And I've been pushing CSBA to address this for the last several months. And they finally put together this webinar as probably one of the, I'm sure I'm not the only one that's been reaching out to CSBA going, what resources are out there? How do we get more? Because we're not experts in this. And they put together this webinar yesterday. It was not resource, it was not fruitful in terms of throwing out a bunch of different resources, but they did give us some contacts. And so I'm going to work through those contacts, and I'll funnel all that information that I get to Mr. Beebe, and when appropriate, we'll re-agendize and hopefully it's over.
So you're not thinking of having it on next month's agenda?
But possibly, I've got until the Friday before.
There you go, at this point.
I think we should keep it on there as a discussion, on ongoing discussion.
Yeah, because the worst, you don't have anything to discuss, you just say it's the same as before, right? Which
Well,
is better than not having it
Yeah,
there.
I think we should just keep it on there in perpetuity.
Okay, okay. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you for your leadership. Thank you so much for your active concern in this problem.
Sue, do you want to talk on J, please? Do you want-
Bechtel Gym. I was approached by the city, and this is why it's a discussion item. I don't even know if we would agendize it. We probably would have to, probably in May, I think. I was approached by the city, Mr. Brian Bender and Ms. Moorhead at the city, and they would like to give us the gym. And they would also like to give us the land underneath the gym. Okay? It was obviously because I'm new and I don't know many things. I just assumed that since I had kids in the gym and we had people parking in the parking lot, that was our stuff. And that was our place. But apparently not. So it's all good. Learning a lot about the nuances of 50 years ago and agreements.
Have you checked a parcel map to see?
They sent me one.
I'd like to see that. And the reason why I say that is because that block right there, that fence, even when I was in school there, all that was Bechtel Road, and there wasn't a gymnasium.
I'm just going by what people down there tell me. So,
But I'm not saying it's not, but I'd be surprised. I was always under the impression that they owned the building and we owned the land. I could easily be wrong there. And again, it didn't make sense that,
Why would you miss
it didn't make sense that we owned property on the other side of the creek behind
Well, that's,
Brookside.
Yes, you did, because those trees was
the
right
white
there.
outline. Come on, take a look at it. The white outline is the city right now.
They gave you that property.
So, I think that after the discussion that we, when I briefed you about this particular situation, I think one of the best things to do is to get as much information from the city as possible about the structure and about the land. All they're asking for back is a strip, an easement strip that is outside the fence that kind of mirrors, runs parallel to the parking lot that we would share associated costs of weeding. But they want it because if they have to make street improvements, they want to have to be able to expand. So,
Okay, so maybe,
this would have to be, for us, Alex, you've probably been here the longest, have we sold property here as a district before?
Yes,
Have we received property here as a district?
we have not purchased any property during my tenure. We did sell the piece of property that Mendo Mill currently sits on.
Okay. I've been part of selling district property before, that usually takes about a decade to get everything involved in play.
It did take us a little while.
But since we are sharing it, and we have an agreement, and we do have an agreement with the city that spans since 1968, I believe. And there's been a few iterations of the agreement. And I'm just going to assume that everything's kind of good. They wouldn't approach me if they weren't just going to give it to me. So nobody ever gives anything away for free, but
that's the only drawback.
so. But I will do some more due diligence, but I told them that I would surface it at this board meeting with you, and you've given me direction, and I'll go from there.
Okay, so should we put it on the May agenda so
If
that?
I get information back from the city, I'll either agendize it or I'll bring it back for discussion. I mean, it's been in the city's property for 50 years. I don't think a couple more months is gonna make that much difference. Maybe it will.
Wouldn't it
Did
be?
you offer any reason for why they want to do this?
Because they don't.
And it's never been offered this before.
They didn't. You know, thinking back to the discussion,
There has
I'm not so
always
sure I
been,
asked.
yeah, there has always
The
been
truth.
difficulty with, there's always been difficulty whenever a significant upgrade, for example, the roof on the building or the floors in the gymnasium, those are big ticket items. There's always been difficulty getting the city to basically cough it up.
I would say that that's the case, but I know that we're the ones maintaining it.
Right, we've always taken the lead in securing a contractor to do the roof, for example. But getting the city to pay their half was, they always finally did, but it was
I will ask them that in my next meeting.
a struggle.
I don't want to guess. I do have a guess, but I don't want to guess.
I want to say it has something to do with our current city manager. I think he's a stickler for rules, and he doesn't like sort of old arrangements that sort of were being used the way they were. I live on a private road, but the city is not a city street, but the city has property at the top of the hill. So part of the road is failing, so we're arranging with neighbors who are up the hill to put in their shares. So I approached the city, and now he wants he knows that the city didn't have a, what's it called?
Easement?
An easement. The city did not have an official easement to their property, and they wanted every neighbor to sign off on an easement. But this has been in place ever since measure's been there, so, but he's a stickler for the
I will
way
ask him.
things.
For some reason, I think insurance may have something to do with
Well,
it.
so where does the city pool fit in the grand scheme and the tennis courts? I mean, are we not talking about the same thing here?
We'll save that for next week. That's a,
I'm just
actually,
wondering why that particular property and not these others.
I'm not exactly certain that that's not coming next. That they would like us to have a pool. And that's a whole, that is a different discussion than the gym. Because of the dynamics of what goes on in the pool as opposed to the gym facility.
The pool became a significant issue not long ago because of the diesel tanks that we discovered when we went to do the parking lot.
Yes.
And the hazmat and all this stuff.
Yes. The city actually asked me to find somebody who was alive in 1975 that was in the city government at that time. I was not successful.
Hasn't been a long-term resident.
In 75?
I was a sophomore.
Somebody who was actually working for the city in 1975.
My husband might have been the city attorney then.
No? Give me, we already settled the deal. We're good.
And you'll remember to ask about the community
Yes.
sports, et cetera. Okay, well, so it looks like,
Can we put the pool for discussion on the next one? Please.
and we're just now ready for additional agenda items.
I would like to put the superintendent's salary on the next agenda.
Good, thank you. And we approve evaluations and salaries in closed session and then report them out.
Do we approve we do the superintendent's evaluation in closed session? The salary discussions are out here.
Okay, so long as it gets placed in the proper part of the cap. And so long, actually, so long as it's placed. And then, gosh, I was so anybody else while I'm looking?
Yeah, I've gotten my dander up about artificial intelligence. I read an article about how it's going to totally upend education within 10 years. And I've sort of been following it and paying attention since I read that. And I actually, Jen, the IT director, is kind enough to, she's willing to set me up with some, with a look at the Willits tech system to see how they're dealing with artificial intelligence. But I've been reading some things that really horrify me, and I think I really like the district to be they'll go in with their eyes open as to what artificial intelligence is and to what the problems are and what the possible catastrophes could be, and not just be caught unaware. So at some point, I think that we need to educate our staff about artificial intelligence, because students are starting to use it. I was reading about these high school students that created this video showing their administrators saying and doing things that they didn't actually say or do, and everybody believed that this was true. And anyway, I think we need to have our eyes open. So.
Skynet is kind of
Are you seeing the AI in school?
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, yeah?
This was all Skynet.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I didn't want to, I think it's a very, I don't think, it's a very serious topic, and as an older educator, I think it's a little spooky, to be frank with you, to use a really fancy term. You know, I think it's, I think that your industry is already using it.
Right.
So it's got a reverse paradigm, because typically high school and college kids usually grab onto the nuances of stuff first, especially in the tech world, and then that floats up to industry, and then even the higher industry. Well, this started at the very highest levels of industry, the tech world, and it's now coming down. And so that seems to be a bit more powerful of a tractable infusion into society.
There's a huge input in the military applications of this that is driving a lot of this right now.
Yeah, and there was a, I don't know if you want to go online, and there was a pretty lengthy 16 minutes episode on it this past Sunday. It did a pretty good job on it. And I was stunned, and I was just asking Brandon about it. I'm a former English teacher for a long time, and I saw some videos of you just told them what you wanted to write, and it wrote it in about 10 seconds.
There is a popular one that the high school kids are all aware of called ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Right.
It'll write the essay for them. However, the industry is already developing tools for the teachers.
Right, that's what
to go ahead and
Jennifer
submit it.
told me.
So
What the
that's-
district already has in
Yes.
place.
That's the interesting part about this new technology is that typically, like I said, kids get it first, but industry had it first, and Google developed this.
Right.
I think Google developed ChatGPT.
Some of the.
Microsoft. Yeah, they're all the same.
now.
So, I hate to say it, this is here,
Right.
and I agree with Alex. If you're into Terminator movies, this is it, this is Skynet, it's coming.
I was reading this article about, just recently, in the last couple of days, that, I don't know what artificial intelligence program it is, but that the artificial intelligence program is now doing things that they didn't teach it to do.
Yeah.
My dad told me that my intelligence was artificial, so.
Which means it's running itself.
What's
and
the
that's
whole thing
pretty
about
scary.
artificial intelligence? The idea behind it is it will learn. It's not, that's the goal of artificial intelligence, is to develop a device that learns. And interestingly enough, I was reading something that said that a year ago, this artificial intelligence bot had a 10% chance of passing the California bar. Next year, it'll have a 90% chance of passing the California bar. So, there you are.
I will say this.
Ready to operate on me, I'm going to question you, I'm going to say, we're going to have a session.
This has been the source of much sci-fi and Stephen King novels, and they call it the singularity, right? That moment that the AI surpasses
Becomes self-aware.
human, exactly.
About 30 years
Go
ago.
back to the 1940s or so with Rossum's Universal Robots. It's the same story.
Might actually be getting there.
Can we get to item 15?
You all finished?
We're finished.
Okay, well then.
Skynet's down, it's time to go.
So, trust we're adjourned, or we need a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Very nice. All in favor, please stand.
Aye.
I think we're everybody.
Rochelle.